Ada Pearson's arrival on March 14, 1982, marked a joyous occasion for the Pearson family. As the eldest among her 4 siblings, Ada possessed a natural inclination to care for her younger brother Jonathan, as well as her sisters Ashley and Joanna Pearson. Yet Ada's influence extended far beyond her immediate family. Everyone fortunate enough to have crossed paths with Ada described her as a radiant beam of sunshine. Her contagious laughter and quick-witted humor had the power to illuminate even the gloomiest of days. Her heart of gold left an indelible mark on the lives of all who had the privilege of knowing her. She served as a constant wellspring of inspiration and positivity. Upon her graduation from El Capitan High School in California in 2000, Ada embarked on a journey of self-improvement, enrolling in sign language and mathematics courses at Grossmont Community College. Alongside her pursuit of knowledge, Ada's heart found its counterpart in a young man named Michael Plummer, then 20 years old. Their love story unfolded organically, and eventually, Ada moved in with Michael, sharing an apartment on Bancroft Street in San Diego, California. Their union appeared unbreakable, and a bright future beckoned. However, fate had other plans, and tragedy struck unexpectedly, forever altering the course of Ada's promising life. The fateful night of September 4, 2000, would be etched into the annals of tragedy. A frantic call to the police reported gunshots erupting from Michael's apartment, sending officers racing to the scene. What they encountered was a nightmare beyond comprehension. The apartment lay in disarray, and amid the chaos they discovered Ada and Michael sprawled on the living room floor, drenched in pools of crimson. Michael's body bore multiple gunshot wounds beyond salvation, while Ada clung to life, her form riddled with bullets. Tragically, the horror did not end there. 21-month-old Julio Rangel, Michael's nephew, had also fallen victim to the violence, fighting for his own life. Fortunately, Julio's parents had managed to escape unscathed. The neighborhood was left shell-shocked, and authorities grappled to unravel the unsettling puzzle. In a desperate bid to save Ada and Julio, both were rushed to separate hospitals. Yet, the extent of their injuries proved insurmountable, and they succumbed to their wounds shortly after arrival. As detectives relentlessly pieced together the events leading up to this tragedy, a shocking revelation emerged. Mere moments before the gunfire erupted, Michael had ventured next door to procure drugs from a man named Sergio Lopez Contreras. However, upon returning with the drugs, Michael reneged on payment, infuriating the dealer. In a surge of rage, Sergio unleashed a hail of bullets from outside the apartment door, firing a total of 14 rounds into the living room, with devastating consequences. Once the truth behind the murders came to light, detectives were resolute in their determination to bring Sergio to justice. However, the cunning drug dealer recognized the gravity of his predicament and chose to flee the country, escaping to Mexico. His evasion threatened to thwart the relentless pursuit of justice, as detectives speculated about his whereabouts. It was believed he had sought refuge in Tijuana, where he had family ties, but leads grew scarce, and the investigation reached a disheartening impasse. The families of the victims yearned for answers, closure, and justice. Yet, as days turned to weeks and weeks into months, it seemed increasingly unlikely that the perpetrator responsible for this heinous act would face accountability. Their grief was compounded by the knowledge that the individual who had torn their loved ones from them remained at large, seemingly untouched by the law. For 2 agonizing decades, they clung to the fragile hope that justice would eventually prevail, and the perpetrator would be apprehended. Finally, in March 2023, after a protracted period of waiting, long-awaited news arrived. The police announced the arrest of Sergio, the primary suspect in the triple murder case, in Mexico on unrelated charges. While the specifics of his arrest remained undisclosed, this development infused a surge of relief and optimism into the hearts of the victims' families, who had endured years of suffering and uncertainty. At long last, there was a glimmer of hope that closure might be within reach. On March 22, 2023, Sergio, now 44 years old, was escorted across the U.S. border with the assistance of the U.S. Marshals and La Fiscalía General de la República. He was promptly booked into San Diego Central Jail, facing 3 counts of murder, along with special circumstances, including allegations of employing a rifle in the commission of the killings and lying in wait. The courtroom atmosphere brimmed with tension when he was arraigned 2 days later, on March 24, 2023. Appearing via teleconference, Sergio entered a plea of not guilty to the 3 counts of first-degree murder brought against him. The families of the victims, who had endured more than 2 decades of grief, expressed their profound gratitude to the law enforcement officials who had steadfastly pursued the case. With the suspect now in custody, their hopes rested on the legal system to deliver the justice they had yearned for over the years. It was a moment of renewed hope for the families, a glimmer of light piercing through the darkness of their long, painful journey towards closure and justice. Then in 2022, authorities made the decision to revisit the case armed with advanced scientific and investigative tools. Detectives were resolute in their determination to finally bring closure to a case that had plagued them for so long. By developing a DNA profile from evidence collected in 1970, detectives embarked on a new path of investigation. They compared this DNA profile to publicly accessible genealogical databases and embarked on the painstaking task of constructing a family tree. This led them to identify potential relatives of the suspect, a crucial breakthrough in their pursuit of justice. A DNA sample was obtained from one of these relatives, whose identity was kept confidential by the authorities. With bated breath, the DNA sample was tested, and the long-awaited breakthrough finally occurred. The suspect was identified as Forrest Clyde Williams. However, the excitement of this discovery was tempered by a painful realization. Williams had passed away in Salem, Virginia, in 2018 from natural causes. Justice, it seemed, would remain elusive in this case. The bitter pill to swallow was that they had finally found the man responsible, but they could not hold him accountable for his crimes. In a press conference held on March 10, 2023, the police announced this breakthrough in the case. They revealed that Williams, who was 21 years old at the time of Pamela's death, had faced a few minor charges in the early 1970s, but apart from an assault arrest, he had no significant criminal record. The police disclosed that had Williams still been alive, he would have been charged with Pamela's murder. At present, they have not ruled out the possibility of additional suspects and are appealing to anyone who may have known Williams during that time to come forward with information. While justice may remain elusive for Pamela's untimely death, the resolution of her case does bring some closure to her grieving family and the community that has carried the weight of this unsolved mystery for so long. In the quiet town of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, on the chilly day of January 13, 1954, a newborn girl named Pamela took her first breath. She was the eldest of 3 siblings, born to Mr. and Mrs. William Conyers. Pamela's early life remained largely private, but her journey would soon take a remarkable turn. Fast forward to 1970, and Pamela had blossomed into a talented high school student attending Glen Burnie High School in the suburbs of Baltimore. At school, she proudly joined the ranks of the school band, showcasing her exceptional flute-playing skills. Like most teenagers, Pamela cherished her family and friends, eagerly creating unforgettable memories. Life seemed to hold endless possibilities for her. However, as fate would have it, Pamela's life would take an unexpected and dark turn that no one could have foreseen. It was the evening of Friday, October 16, 1970, and the air was electric with anticipation for Glen Burnie High School's homecoming bonfire and pep rally. Pamela was among the enthusiastic crowd, cheering on her school's team and soaking in the festive atmosphere as the night wound down. After the event, Pamela headed back home with excitement brewing in her heart. Her next task was to plan her outfit for the upcoming school dance, and she had a particular idea in mind. She needed shoe dye to match her dress, and her destination was the Harendale Mall, just a short drive away from her home. Pamela's mother, always supportive of her daughter's fashion choices, handed her $5 for the show day at 8:30 p.m. Pamela left the house promising her mother that she would return shortly. She got into the family's car, a 1966 Dodge, and set off toward the mall. Little did Pamela's parents know that this night would mark the last time they would see their beloved daughter alive. If only they had possessed the foresight to anticipate the harrowing events that lay ahead, they might never have allowed her out of their sight. As the night grew longer, Pamela failed to return home, causing her parents increasing anxiety. It was unlike their daughter to stay out so late. Their worries and concerns deepened, and eventually, they took the painful step of reporting her as missing to the local police. That very night, law enforcement officers sprang into immediate action, determined to unravel the mystery of Pamela's disappearance. Their investigation began by retracing Pamela's steps, commencing with the Herondale Mall, where she had gone to purchase the shoe dye. There, they discovered that she had indeed visited the mall and made her purchase, but what happened afterward remained shrouded in mystery. It was at this point that suspicions of an abduction began to emerge. The following morning, state and county law enforcement launched an extensive search effort, even utilizing a helicopter to cover as much ground as possible. However, it was as though Pamela had vanished into thin air. 2 days later, on October 19, 1970, a man walking in the woods stumbled upon an abandoned vehicle. The car was situated in an overgrown field, about 100 yards off Mountain Road Extension in Pasadena. Recognizing that something was amiss, the man promptly alerted the authorities. When the police arrived at the scene, they confirmed that the car was the same one Pamela had driven on the night she went missing. Yet, there was no sign of Pamela herself, and a crucial detail captured their attention. The car keys were nowhere to be found. This new piece of evidence deepened the mysteries surrounding Pamela's disappearance. As dawn broke on October 20, 1970, the search for Pamela intensified as officers scoured the densely wooded area around where her abandoned car had been discovered. Among the officers present was Patrol Officer Robert Switzer, who would make a gruesome discovery. Pamela's lifeless body lay on her side, off a deserted farm road. She was dressed in slacks and a pullover which had been turned inside out. It was later revealed that her underwear was missing. As additional officers arrived at the scene, they were overwhelmed by shock and sorrow. They diligently collected as much evidence as possible from the crime scene, and Pamela's body was transported for autopsy. The news of Pamela's death sent shockwaves of grief through her family. The autopsy results confirmed that she had died from strangulation, leaving no doubt that her death was a homicide. The hunt for her killer began in earnest, with detectives tirelessly following every lead that came their way. Pamela's clothing, along with soil and dirt samples vacuumed from the 1966 Dodge, were sent to the FBI crime lab in Washington for analysis. Regrettably, the technology available at the time proved insufficient to yield any leads, and as time passed, the case grew cold. The unsolved murder case remained a haunting presence for the investigators, a stark reminder of a tragedy that had eluded justice for over 5 decades. Boulder County, Colorado, is renowned for its breathtaking natural beauty, with the majestic Rocky Mountains gracing the backdrop of Boulder City and the neighboring towns. This region is undeniably a unique and inspiring place to call home, but even amidst its serene charm, it harbors unsettling secrets. On June 4, 2006, 2 hikers stumbled upon a grisly discovery in South St. Frame Canyon, along Highway 7, approximately 3.3 miles outside the town of Lyons, in unincorporated Boulder County, a badly decomposing nude body. The shock of their find prompted them to alert the authorities, setting in motion a dark and mysterious tale. Upon the arrival of law enforcement, it became evident that the human remains belonged to a woman. The district attorney's office noted that the body seemed to have been dragged to the location by a large animal from a shallow grave situated 20 feet away. Curiously, detectives uncovered a sleeping bag, a pair of yellow ski pants, and a pillow inside a pillowcase, all neatly folded. The deceased woman had no identification on her, except for a cross ring adorning her left hand. Given the advanced state of decomposition, identifying her proved impossible. Therefore, investigators turned to other clues found on and around the body, delving approximately 14 inches deep into the gravesite. During their examination, forensic experts uncovered roughly 50 pounds of a white, powdery substance, which subsequent tests revealed to be calcium oxide, commonly known as quicklime. An autopsy, conducted by a coroner 3 days after the shocking discovery, estimated that the woman had been deceased for several weeks to possibly several months. However, the cause and manner of her death remained elusive. While her body bore evidence of animal predation, no broken bones, stab wounds, or gunshot wounds were found. Strangulation was considered a possibility, but the advanced decomposition offered no certainty, and the pathologist could not find conclusive evidence during the autopsy to support a homicide. Instead, an artery blockage hinted at a potential death from a heart attack. Nonetheless, detectives retained their suspicions and continued to consider foul play. The circumstances surrounding the victim's burial before her body was dragged to its exposed state left investigators with a dearth of leads. Their desire for closure, both for the woman who had lost her life under these mysterious circumstances and for justice, remained unfulfilled. Initial inquiries within Boulder County's residence yielded no fruitful tips, leaving the victim unidentified for several months. It was only in the fall of that year that a significant breakthrough occurred. In October 2006, a woman contacted the Longmont Police Department, expressing concern about her long unseen friend, Angie Wilder, whom she had been unable to contact. The missing friend's physical description closely matched that of the remains found in the canyon a few months earlier. Additionally, the woman mentioned a distinctive ring that her friend was known to wear, similar to the cross ring found on the victim. With this crucial information, investigators were able to identify the missing woman as Angela Wilds. In November 2006, she was officially identified as Angela Josephine Wilds through a DNA analysis on the rib bones, comparing them to those of her 4 sisters. Angela was 38 years old when she lost her life. Curiously, none of Angela's family members had reported her missing or conducted further investigations into her disappearance. Detectives learned that around the time she vanished in April 2006, she lacked a stable home or steady employment. Her life revolved around living with friends, but beyond this, investigators had little information to work with. Despite interviewing Angela's family, friends, and acquaintances, investigators remained no closer to unraveling the mystery of her fate. As investigators delved deeper into the case, they conducted DNA tests on the items discovered with Angela. These tests revealed the presence of unknown male DNA on the ski pants, sleeping bag, and pillowcase. However, it would take 3 more years to identify the contributor of this male DNA. On January 22, 2009, information reached investigators working on Angela's case from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, CBI, indicating a preliminary match between the suspect's DNA and a man named John Michael Ankerer, who was incarcerated at a correctional center in Palmer, Alaska. 2 months later, in March 2009, investigators traveled to Alaska and collected additional DNA samples from Ankerer, further solidifying their suspicions. On February 24, 2009, detectives from the Anchorage, Alaska Police Department took John Michael Ankerer into custody on a warrant issued by the Boulder County Sheriff's Office, charging him with the 2006 murder of Angela Wilds. As investigators sought to establish the connection between Angela and Ankerer, they managed to locate several individuals who claimed to have seen them together in late 2005 and early 2006. On August 26, 2009, a detective from the Anchorage Police Department conducted a formal interview with Ankerer. In this interview, Ankerer recounted attending a dive school in Texas in February or March of 2006 and subsequently living in various Colorado locations, including Canyon City, Longmont, and Monte Vista, until July 2006. He stated that he moved to Alaska in August of that year. Curiously, Ankerer denied any knowledge of a person named Angie or Angela, and when shown her photograph, he maintained that he did not recognize her, failing to provide a confession or substantial information. Despite the initial challenges, investigators persisted. In September 2009, they re-interviewed Ankerer, who again denied knowing the victim. He also denied being in the South St. Francis area around the time of the crime. However, his own family members contradicted his claims. Ankerer's parents reported that he frequently visited a cave in the South St. Francis area, located off Highway 7, approximately 3 to 4 miles from Lyons. He hiked and camped in the vicinity, and his sister recalled dropping him off there on occasion. In March 2010, investigators issued a court-authorized arrest warrant for second-degree murder charges against Angela Wilds. At the time, Ankerer was already incarcerated in an Alaska prison on a probation violation charge. Ankerer's preliminary hearing took place in the Boulder City Court on July 12, 2010. While the evidence pointed to him, including DNA evidence and witness testimonies, it fell short of conclusively placing him at the crime scene. Prosecutors also struggled to establish a motive behind the killing. Ankerer's defense attorney argued that there was no physical evidence directly implicating Ankerer in Angela's death, especially considering the pathologist's inability to definitively declare it a homicide. Judge Thomas Reed, after considering the evidence, determined that probable cause did not sufficiently support the charge and subsequently dismissed the case. Despite this setback, detectives remained determined to solve the case. Over the years, the Boulder County Sheriff's Office and the District Attorney's Office continued their relentless efforts, collaborating with the Colorado Bureau of Investigación and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. These efforts included conducting interviews with various individuals and consulting with pathologists. In 2005, a pathologist reevaluated the case, concluding that Angela's death should be considered a homicide due to the circumstances surrounding her discovery, a nude body covered in lime in a remote wooded area. Although the specifics of her death remained uncertain, asphyxiation emerged as the most probable cause. Nevertheless, this evidence alone was insufficient to hold the suspect accountable for the victim's death. Several years later, in December 2022, a new witness emerged, altering the course of the investigation dramatically. This witness happened to be Ankerer's former girlfriend, who had separated from him between December 2022 and January 2023. In subsequent interviews, she revealed disturbing details about Ankerer's past, describing him as extremely jealous, possessive, and prone to mistreatment. She believed that he suspected her of infidelity and claimed that he had repeatedly strangled her during their relationship. However, when initially questioned in 2009, she had denied being strangled. Moreover, she believed that Ankerer harbored dark secrets, becoming particularly unstable and violent when consuming alcohol or drugs. The mention of certain women's names, including Angela, triggered his rage. In December 2022, detectives also contacted 2 other witnesses who claimed to have seen Ankerer with Angela at the El Motel in Longmont, Colorado, a mere 10 miles from the South St. Francis Canyon crime scene. When examining the motel records, investigators confirmed that Angela and Ankerer had stayed there together between December 26 and January 4, 2006. Based on the accumulating evidence, both new and existing, the Boulder County District Attorney's Office presented the case to a grand jury on February 16, 2023. The grand jury subsequently indicted John Ankerer once again, this time for second-degree murder. Investigators now hold confidence that justice will finally be served in this disturbing case. Boulder County District Attorney Michael Dougherty expressed their determination to secure justice for Angela Wilds' murder, offer closure to her loved ones, and provide answers to the community. On March 9, 2023, John Ankerer, now 53 years old, was arrested in Anchorage, Alaska, and extradition to Boulder City is currently pending, marking a significant step toward resolving the mysteries that have shrouded this case for far too long.